What's up again there, guys? Brian here at 3TR, and I have a rather special top list video to share for you guys today. Now, in the wake of the release of the final trailer for Star Wars Episode 7, one of my reviewers actually requested that I actually share a list going over my top favorite Star Wars characters in the entire franchise. Now, I decided to keep it relatively simple, so I've decided to reduce it down to 5. I could go up to 10, but let's just keep it short and simple. So, starting off with number 5 on my list, I picked Princess Leia Organa. Now, I like Leia because I think out of all the female characters that I have read, not just within the movies, but actually in the comic books and the novels, I kind of like how she's not like her mother, in which she's kind of naive. She eventually becomes a Jedi herself, which unfortunately that's now become Legends lore, which I'm a little upset about. It doesn't look like they're going to do anything special for her in the new film. But I like how she's not a pushover. She's not really your typical princess. This is someone who can, talk back to people and doesn't take shit from anyone. She's not afraid to show her much more sensitive side. But when the blaster fires, whizzing past your head, she's not afraid to grab a blaster and blow off a stormtrooper's face. So I just kind of like how she kind of has a little bit of spunk to her, and isn't pretty stereotypical, and that's why I put Princess Leia Organa as number 5 on my list. Going on into number 4, I picked Starkiller from the initially Force Unleashed lore, which again, that's now Legends. But Starkiller is the ultimate definition of a Force-wielding badass. I mean, whether you pick Starkiller, or which is technically the clone, or GALEN, MAREK, which is his real name, this dude is an absolute animal with the Force. I don't think, apart from a couple of the characters that happened later on in the original Star Wars Legend lore during the second Civil War in the franchise after Return of the Jedi, I have not seen anyone use the Force to that extent. You don't even see Yoda use the Force in that way, in the creative ways. I mean, he's kind of what you would call a gray Jedi, both variations. And the fact that he's like the one character that has consecutively kicked Vader's ass, and we all know how badass Vader is, really puts him well on my reputations list. I mean, if there's any one Jedi I would love to be for a day, it would be GALEN, MAREK, or Starkiller. It doesn't matter, give me either one, they're both badasses, they both kick ass, and both of them know how to use the Force. And that's why it's number 4 on my list. Going on into number 3 is probably, I wouldn't say he's underrated. I would really be happy if he could pop up in these next future films. It's probably unlikely, but if he did, I'd be ecstatic. And this is the one Jedi Master. If Star Wars was real and I was training to be a Jedi Knight, this is the guy I would pick. I would love to train under Master KATARN. The reason being is I love his entire viewpoint of the Force. It's definitely not traditional. It's a lot more flexible, and I like how he acknowledges that it's not necessarily the Force power itself that determines whether it's good or bad. It's how someone uses it. And there aren't really a lot of Jedis that are open to that idea. I mean, I'd say Luke is to some point later on in his life in the original continuity. I'm not sure how he's going to be in this future film. But I like how he's not afraid to play dirty. He's not afraid to use tricks that most Jedi wouldn't, because he is a battle master, and it's always smart to have as many tools at your disposal, and that's a viewpoint of the Force I can absolutely admire. I'm not so much focused on having nothing but dark side powers like the Sith, or I'm not all about, perfect harmony like a Jedi would. I'm much more like a bit of a balance, and out of any Jedi I've seen in all of the Star Wars lore, he's the one who's gotten that philosophy down to a T, and that's why he is my number 3 on my list. Going on into number 2, I picked Chancellor/Emperor Palpatine, or Darth Sidious. Now, he in many ways is the ultimate bad guy of the entire franchise, even before or after his death. And this was really shown to an extent during, I'd say, the prequel era, both in the movies and in the comics and the novels. Palpatine is just such an amazing, deep character who, even before he is a Darksider and gets recruited by Darth Plagueis, he's such an interesting character because this is someone who had issues with the family, but he has a lot of ambition. And even after he becomes an apprentice, he kind of understands how this old way of thinking isn't necessarily a good way to approach, because he wants to fulfill the rule of two prophecy, but he recognizes that doing it under Plagueis isn't working, and so he masterminds this elaborate plan that was just genius. And it really is the one element of the Star Wars prequels that I would absolutely put over the original, is that all three films had an overarching goal, as opposed to the originals where they kind of all felt like they were their own individual movies that had little connections that tied them together. This was the master plan, how he was able to set up a blockade, which then got the original Chancellor out of power. Then he put himself into place, and then he had a clone army built completely in secret, and was able to play both sides to then weaken the Jedi Order and then execute Order 66, which was just, oh, that was just an amazing moment. And then transform the Republic into the Empire. I mean, what character was able to do that much over such a significant period of time? I can't think of any, and he is just a truly amazing character. I hate how he went. That's one of the big things about Return of the Jedi. I hated. I would have given the Emperor a much better death than how he went. That's the only kind of sad part of his story, is he deserved a much better death. I think Voldemort from Harry Potter had a much better death than the Emperor. But that doesn't change his character. He is still amazing. He's still awesome. I would love to read more books on his character, and that's why he's number 2 on my list. But going into number 1, my overall favorite character in all of Star Wars has to be Obi-Wan Kenobi from before Episode 4. I don't like Old Ben. Old Ben sucks for numerous reasons. But I like Obi-Wan Kenobi's development, especially within the movies, which I absolutely love Ewan McGregor's performance as Obi-Wan. If they do another Obi-Wan Kenobi movie, he needs to come back. He got Obi-Wan Kenobi down to a T, and I love his performance. And not just my opinion, I think most people, even those who hate the prequels, would actually say he was the one of the few good elements about all three of those films. And what I like about Obi-Wan Kenobi is that he is the quintessential Jedi. And you wouldn't think that if you actually knew about his development before he was with Qui-Gon, because a lot of people tend to like to criticize Anakin for saying he was a little bit arrogant as a kid, and his path was kind of tipping him more towards the dark side. But if you actually look into Obi-Wan Kenobi's development before at that same time period, you'll see that he had a lot of similar qualities to Anakin at the time. He was a pretty arrogant person and even had a couple of dark side elements to his character. But to see him overcome that and become the Jedi Master that we would see him be is just a truly amazing story. He is an example of what you can achieve through hard work, determination, and a lasting ambition. And I really felt for him when we got to Revenge of the Sith, which in my opinion, that was the most emotional moment in all of Star Wars that I've ever read or seen, because even the books, even the book of Revenge of the Sith goes into much detail about how heartbreaking it was to face Anakin. I mean, he even gets, I won't say a little bit suicidal, but he kind of wishes he was dead. Maybe if he had died, this wouldn't have happened, and he kind of regrets not doing a better job. And so there was just no other character I feel more for as a connection than to him, because he pretty much lived out my worst possible nightmare that I could ever experience here in my real life. And so out of any character, that's the character I feel the most connection to as an overarching character in the world that he lives in. And that's why Obi-Wan Kenobi, before becoming Old Man, is my favorite character in all of Star Wars. And with that, that is my top list video of the top 5 favorite Star Wars characters in my list. I'd like to know, what are some of your guys' favorite Star Wars characters? Share your list with me in the comments down below, and if you like this video, feel free to like, comment down below, and please subscribe to check me out on my future videos. And like always, thank you guys for watching. You're awesome, and I'll see you next time.